Welcome to another episode of Breaking into Cybersecurity Leadership. Today's guest, Alethe Denis. She is a world-renowned social engineer and security expert. She made her leap into cybersecurity after revisiting her love for hacking through the DEF CON Social Engineering Capture the Flag competition, which she won in 2019, receiving the top honors of a DEF CON Black Badge. She is now an industry-leading social engineer and, dare I say, cybersecurity expert and ally for companies around the world. Alethe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much again for inviting me to join you today. I am super pleased to be here. I am currently working as a senior security consultant at Bishop Fox, working on their red team. So I hate the word expert, but I do get to work with a ton of really amazing client companies and help them test their security, focused mainly on social engineering, as well as tabletop exercises and some attack simulation work as well.
So you started your career out as a social engineer, but now you're viewed as a cybersecurity leader. What are some of the things that you think are important as a cybersecurity leader versus an individual contributor?
I would say the biggest obstacle to becoming a sensational leader is having empathy for those that you are tasked with leading or who you want to position yourself as a leader for in the industry. I myself am an individual contributor at work, but I like to take the opportunity and harness the platform that I have within the information security and hacking community to influence others to join us to pursue careers in cybersecurity, whether that's more focused on what I originally started out doing, which was audit, compliance, and governance in this space, and then moving into offensive security, or whether they want to go straight into blue teaming skills and defend organizations and work with a single employer to help protect their infrastructure, their environment, their people, processes, and assets. Frankly, I think that working on the blue team is a lot more difficult because you've got so many different areas that you need to cover. And that I think is where we need the most skills. But I'm hoping that sharing my journey into this space, moving from a completely different industry, and transferring some of the skills that I gained in other industry positions can help to move other individuals into this space and build out our cybersecurity workforce, with the emerging talent that's coming out of our colleges, out of our high schools, and also those who are seeking to transition from a completely different industry into this space.
And what would you say are some of those critical skills that you used to do that transfer?
Communication is probably the most important. Having effective communication and being able to share your priorities, your goals, but also have that empathy and be a great active listener and tell people what they need to hear, not just what you want them to hear, when you're trying to position your skills to, sell your resume to a potential employer. Having those communication skills is going to be the most critical element, I think. And a lot of interviews that I've conducted where I was meeting individuals who are applying for positions, especially those entry level cybersecurity and technology roles, that I find is one of the areas where they fall down is not being able to adequately, accurately, and effectively describe how they plan to contribute meaningfully to an organization and really sell themselves, be confident in speaking of their skills without being cocky or looking like they don't have the skills to back up their resume, for example. But so, yes, first and foremost, communication skills. Secondly, I would say focus on networking and growing the community of humans, like human networking, not necessarily technology networking, but connecting with humans and building your information security community of people is going to be critical to that, especially that first job. Getting that first cybersecurity job can be one of the most just awful trials that people can go through. Speaking from experience, it took me a couple years to find an organization that was willing to see my resume for the skills that were there from other positions, not necessarily related to cybersecurity, and to give me that opportunity to have my first cybersecurity focused role on the consulting team with them. So first, work on your communication skills. Be confident in expressing what transferable skills you have if you're moving from another industry, or don't forget to include the things that you've done in competitions or hobbies that can help to back up the skills that you have on your resume and adequately communicate those to prospective employers. But also don't dismiss the importance of building out your network of humans. Every meaningful role that I have had has come out of a relationship with a person and not just a blind, job application that a recruiter picked up and handed me a position.
Oh, we're definitely going to jump into some of those topics in depth in this session. As you shifted and you started leading teams, leading projects within your roles, what were some of the skills that you found were critical for that?
People leadership is tricky, and I'll say that there isn't one set of skills that is going to work for every type of team. Each team is different, and having the flexibility to be more dynamic with your approach to leadership is very important, in my opinion. Some teams are really great about being proactive and attacking their work, managing their project deadlines independently. And with those type of teams, you want to give them space, of course, check in with them, make sure that there's nothing that those individual contributors need from you to support what they're doing. If they're having, a client escalation that needs additional support, or some other issue that you can potentially help with. But for the most part, those individuals are comfortable delivering their work and managing their own deadlines. And in that case, you're going to want to take a more of a back seat to leadership, and it feels like you're not doing a lot, but as long as you're there and you're checking in with folks and leading through the example of your own behavior, showing up every day, doing your job to the best of your ability, and making sure that you're accessible but not micromanaging folks, then that's fantastic. There are other teams that need more guidance, they need additional support, they need more of a project management sort of touch from their immediate manager or their direct manager. And in that case, you're going to gently remind and keep folks on task. You're still not going to focus on that micromanaging or giving of orders, so to speak. You want to take more of a lead by example approach there as well, but you're going to put more effort into the administrative side and the guiding towards meeting those deadlines and time management. But I would say ultimately, you're listening to what your team needs. You're focusing on that communication and that two-way conversation rather than just, shifting work and tasks down to the individuals that report to you. You're going to be more focused on supporting the humans first and then the project second, and helping to set expectations with clients if there are blockers or any issues that could create delays and project timeline delays specifically. But again, we're supporting humans and having that empathy, that ability for folks to come to you with any issues without fear of reprimand, and just supporting your team to the best of your ability while being available to help bail them out if they get into trouble with something, I think is very important. So first, communication. Secondly, empathy. Third, avoiding that micromanaging or that tendency to shift work down without empathy or care for the fact that we're working with humans who have lives and can potentially have emergencies and things that get in the way. Those would be my top things to note when you're managing projects and teams.
And what would you say your comfort level with delegation is, and why is it a critical skill?
Delegation is epically important, but it's also one of the things I find the most difficult to do. It's taken me about 15 to 20 years to get comfortable with delegation. Prior to that, I was really one of those individuals who was like, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. And now I think finding the right people for the job is central to delegation, and then having the confidence that you can task those individuals with that work and that they will meet those deadlines and that they will deliver quality deliverables, quality experiences for clients. That all starts with tasking the right people for the job. So delegation is very important because no one human can do it all. And if you do try, each of the things that you're attempting to do simultaneously are going to suffer. So delegation, critical, but also the people that you assign each role or each task is also very critical. And having confidence that you can trust those individuals to do that work independently is pivotal to your success when delegating work, because if you can't trust them to do it, you're just going to end up micromanaging them. And that's detrimental to their self-esteem, to their work productivity and confidence in their role. It's detrimental to your relationship with them, working relationship, and it's also detrimental to your ability to do the tasks that you're supposed to be focusing on if you're just sitting there managing other people doing tasks that you should be able to trust them to complete on their own.
What is your comfort level with collaboration, and why is it important?
So I love collaboration to a certain degree. I'm a little bit of a loner and I like to do things, my way when I'm working on projects and things like that. But over the last 10 years, I've begun to see the value of collaborating with people who have skills that are different from mine and combining diverse skill sets together to accomplish a common goal can give you perspective that you would not have had otherwise. As long as you have the right people assigned to the project and everybody is contributing at the same level, collaboration leads to innovation. It leads to very wonderful customer experiences, and client relationships only get better when clients have great experiences with teams of people. Having people who are responsible for making sure that the administrative and project management tasks get done and allowing the team to collaborate together using their skills to deliver the actual project deliverables is something that I've also found is incredibly helpful. And it gives that team of consultants, for example, the ability to focus on doing the work rather than um, pushing off administrative and project management tasks and delaying project deliverables and not making deadlines. And it helps to have that support staff there as well. So in summary, collaboration is fantastic. Making sure that you have individuals to support the project outside of the actual team that's delivering the project can only help to deliver that excellent customer experience that we all want our clients to have. But it's also important to have players on the team that are diverse with their viewpoints, that can share new ideas, and that can create that innovation rather than simply checking the box on a process to deliver a service or a product to clients.
And now we're going to dive deep into communication. Why is communication so critical? I know this is one of your areas of passion.
So this is a loaded question because I could talk for hours, but I'll try to keep it concise. Communication is the center of the wheel in leadership, in my opinion. Everything spokes outward from communication. Lack of communication, I have seen destroy more working relationships than I can count. And effective communication and active listening are at the center of that. Being able to type an excellently worded email is something that I prided myself on early on in my work experience. And so I would write these long-winded paragraphs of emails and send these to my management and be extremely discouraged when I got a 4-sentence or 4-word in some cases reply. And learning how to effectively communicate with your audience is something that I can't measure the importance of. So I will style my communications to match the individual that I'm communicating with. If I need quick approval on a course of action, and this is going to somebody who I know is in a management, director, or executive level role, these humans do not have a lot of time to review your email. They don't care about your reasons. And for the most part, if they do, they'll take the time to follow up and learn more. So getting to the point very quickly and very concisely is important in those types of conversations. While when you are teaching or working with folks that are trying to learn new processes, it does, make sense to take a little bit more time to explain the why. I find that most people are more likely to retain knowledge if they understand the reason for the action that we're taking. So instead of saying, for step 4, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, I try to take a little bit of extra time there and say, because this is happening, we want to take this action because this has this effect, and kind of go into more detail there. So managing your styles of communication for the audience that you're talking to, very important. Understanding what the goals of the conversation are, equally important. When we're scheduling meetings, scheduling an hour-long meeting for something that can take 5 to 15 minutes, that is something that we should all take into consideration, because time is the most valuable thing that we have, and being disrespectful of the audience that we're trying to communicate with and their time is something that people do not forget. So making sure that if the hour-long meeting could be a 15-minute or a 30-minute meeting, schedule that time accordingly. Ensure that you're including an agenda. Don't just have everyone show up and go, why are we here? Have an agenda, have decisions that need to be made, laid out in advance so that you can make the best use of that time. And if it's something that you're just communicating downward and you don't anticipate collaboration or need to have a response from the audience right there in the moment or at all, then it could probably have been an email.
I love that. And as a social engineer, this next skill or competency is critical. So why is influence such a critical skill to have in cybersecurity and even in social engineering?
I can't measure the impact of influence in our daily lives. I know that most people, when they think of social engineering and influence, they go straight to manipulators and ways that we can manipulate other humans to take actions that they probably shouldn't. Um, that is not the influence that I focus on as a leader. And I think in a leadership position, we should all focus on more of the subtle influencers that we can use as good leaders to build rapport and trust with our team. And what I mean by that is show up on time, dress the part, have that agenda ready for the meeting. All of these behaviors influence your team, whether you realize it or not. This influence is something that can set the tone for the culture of your team. And I've heard this probably a thousand times now, especially in the last few years, but humans generally don't leave companies, they leave managers. And if they have a terrible manager, that influences how they feel about their job, how they feel about the company culture. One person on one team can have an excellent, well-rounded manager and love their job and think that the company culture is amazing, while another individual in the same role but on a different team could have a manager that they view as lacking empathy, lacking compassion, um, a dictator who just assigns tasks and isn't there to support the team. And they can view the company culture as being horrible. They can view their job as being extremely stressful, and they can be filled with that Sunday night dread and anxiety and have a completely different perspective, even though they are in the same title at the same company doing the same job. And that's all influenced by the style of their management. So if individuals are interested, I won't go too deeply into the weeds on influence, but if humans are interested in learning more about ways to positively influence their teams through excellent leadership, using that empathy, using that modeling of key behaviors that you want your team to emulate, I cannot recommend this book enough. It is The Code of Trust, written by Robin Dreeke. He is the former head of the behavioral analysis program at the FBI, and he is a very dear friend and great mentor to me. I will never stop talking about that book because it literally changed my entire perspective on that idea of leadership through positive behavior modeling, but that building of trust and rapport and connecting in a very genuine and authentic way with other people.
Wow. We're going to have to share the link to that book after the fact. Thank you for recommending it. Um, Something you touched on earlier was networking with people, networking with other humans. Why is that such a critical skill to cybersecurity leaders?
I can say with absolute certainty that had it not been for networking with people at information security and hacking conferences and through social media platforms like Twitter, I would not have the job that I have today. And I would definitely not have the job that I had previous to this one, because all of these people that I met helped me to firstly participate in the community and actively contribute back to this community rather than simply participating in CTFs or absorbing knowledge from conferences and kind of sticking to my little group of people. I was able to branch out. I was able to meet other people who are passionate about nonprofits, be able to contribute back to the community in a positive way through several organizations that used these skills for good outside of the general, job and workforce landscape. And then meeting more people who were like-minded only helped me to advance my skills, learn new directions that I could go in for the acquiring of new skills, learning about the different areas of information security and different specialties. Um, and then, of course, that having a person inside of the company that you want to be hired by, to give you a reference, to kind of vouch for you, is extremely helpful when you're looking for a job, and having that person genuinely be able to say that, yes, I've worked with this individual. They are good at what they do. They're diligent. They're open to learning. They're great communicators. That kind of stuff can be extremely beneficial when you're working through that initial obstacle of getting over the submission of your resume to human resources or to talent acquisition team. In a lot of cases, people rely on certifications and past job experience to determine whether or not a candidate has the skills needed for a role. When you're coming in from another industry, that's a lot more difficult to show on your resume. So participating in the community, meeting new people, and then sharing your talents and skills with the community in other ways can help to demonstrate that you're eager to learn, that you're continuing to learn new skills, and participating in things like CTFs can give validity to those skills outside of your work experience.
And as we wrap up, what final advice would you give to future cybersecurity leaders?
I would say my biggest point that I would want to share with cybersecurity leaders is that going through the motions isn't enough. Having the one-on-ones, doing the meetings, checking the check boxes, following up to make sure the deadlines are being met, projects are on schedule, those types of things are wonderful. But that idea of empathy and having the ability to support humans, not just skills or resources within your teams, is most critical. If you want to focus on workforce retention, retaining those skills, it's costly and it can be very detrimental to teams to have high rates of turnover. So creating that culture within your team, your immediate group of individuals, can really be beneficial to the company overall. It's going to help you retain people. It's going to help you to have the best skills because people want to be on your team. So leading by example, having empathy, and getting into the trenches and doing the work, not simply dictating tasks and micromanaging, would be the things that I would focus on. But at the core, it all comes back to that empathy for other people and recognizing that you're managing humans, not just processes.
Well, Alethe, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. For those of you who have loved her story, feel free to share it with others. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We're on as many social media platforms as we can because we want to be able to show examples of what you can become in the future from great speakers like Alethe. All, thank you very much for joining us and have a great rest of your day.